listener production.
Hey, Bension Siebert here with The Briefing. And just moments ago, as we record this, Kamala Harris accepted the Democratic nomination for President of the United States, delivering the most important speech of her political career so far.
On behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
For 4 years as Vice President under Joe Biden, Harris has had to live in his political shadow. Despite being the second in command of the most powerful country in the world, many US voters don't know that much about Kamala Harris beyond the vibes. And so far, the vibes have been very good for her campaign. Looking at national polling averages, it's still a tight race, but Harris has been building a widening lead over Donald Trump since the start of this month. So in accepting the Democratic Party's nomination in this speech today, Harris sought to press that advantage and define herself for the voters she'll need to win in November. Dave Levinthal is editor-in-chief of Raw Story, and he joins us now from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Dave, welcome back to The Briefing.
It is my pleasure to be back with you.
This was arguably the most important speech of Kamala Harris's career to date. How did it go?
She would argue that it might be the most important speech that has been given in the United States of America for a long, long while, and really set it up to be one of the future versus the past. And we've seen this and we've heard this as a theme at this Democratic National Convention in Chicago all week. It's become basically a rallying cry. We won't go back. We won't go back. And you heard that on stage today in a major way from Kamala Harris herself when she gave the final speech of the convention.
But America, we are not going back. We are not going back.
And really set this up to, in essence, be her campaign being one of hope and joy and positivity and a sense of shared purpose to move forward into the future, and trying to paint Donald Trump as somebody who really has this reactionary philosophy of revenge and retribution and tribalism and self-service. So it was quite a scene here, to say the least. And I think the big question right now is this momentum going to keep up for her? Because we've got 70-plus long, long days until Election Day, and early voting is starting sooner than that in the United States.
This was Harris's big opportunity to define herself. What story was she trying to tell?
The biggest story she was trying to tell was a very personal one, that she, in essence, is the embodiment of the American dream, that she is somebody who was the daughter of an immigrant from India and the daughter of an immigrant from Jamaica, and they became an American family, and one that was not perfect. Her parents, as she noted, they split up, they divorced, and she was raised in a very normal and kind of typical American town by American standards, very middle class. It was out in California, and that she had an upbringing that was very reflective of millions and millions of Americans throughout this country. And one that, and she was very pointed about this, one that was very different than the gilded upbringing that Donald Trump enjoyed. So she used that as, in a way, a weapon against Donald Trump to say that he doesn't represent America in her estimation, that he is somebody who doesn't understand and can never understand the plight of people who are working class or middle class Americans who live by paycheck, have concerns like, how am I going to get proper health care? Or how am I going to save for my retirement? How am I going to properly educate my children? So there was definitely a class undercurrent, I think, that you heard, again, throughout the week, but also, too, in Kamala Harris's own words as she delivered her own speech.
My mother had another lesson she used to teach. Never let anyone tell you who you are. You show them who you are. Let us show each other and the world who we are and what we stand for. Freedom, opportunity, opportunity, compassion, dignity, fairness, and endless possibilities.
It was really interesting to see how she was framing Donald Trump in this speech, because she's had a lot of success with her running mate Tim Walz, sort of framing him less as this supervillain autocrat and more of just kind of a weird guy. But some of that supervillain vibe was back in this speech, and there was this line that she delivered that kind of combined both of those messages. She said they're out of their minds. What do you make of that strategy and that message?
She was presenting a duality, if you will, on Donald Trump, that on one hand, as you just mentioned, in her opinion, he is weird and he is somebody who is unserious. That was a word that she used, and somebody who will continue to be that way up to and beyond Election Day. But she also said that as unserious and weird as she thinks he is, he's somebody who presents a very serious danger to the United States of America were he to have a second term that would be 4 years long and take the country, if he served that full term, until the year 2029. So part of her messaging has been, we can't not only go back, but we also can't have a future that is going to be colored and tainted, again, in her opinion, by another 4 years of a Trump administration that Democrats are arguing would be even worse than the first one. That much has been made, and there's been much ado about this plan. It's called Project 2025, which was written in part by people who served in Donald Trump's administration, and in essence is a blueprint for policies that would be enacted or attempted to be enacted during a Trump administration. And Democrats almost universally consider them to be highly draconian and cutting across a whole variety of different issues, ranging from social issues to economic issues and beyond.
He and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
There was a major plea by Kamala Harris and many other speakers to those who haven't quite made up their mind on who to pick and who to vote for, and also haven't made up their mind if they're going to vote in the first place, which is sort of the dirty little secret of American politics. It's not just who votes for one candidate or another, but also to who stays home, who's not motivated enough to participate. And if enough of those people who should be supporting you don't support you and don't vote for you in the first place, you got a major problem.
Democrats have been extremely unified since Harris replaced Joe Biden, but one issue that really splits the base is about Israel and the war in Gaza. How did Harris position herself on that issue in this speech?
Very carefully, but very directly. What you heard from Kamala Harris here today in particular was two things. Number one, she was incredibly firm on her support for Israel and its right to defend itself and its right to exist. Probably more clear than a lot of people who were gathered here at the convention would have thought she would have been. But she was also very clear, too, that Israel has, even if she didn't put it in so overt a term, that Israel has gone too far and that there has been a level of death and destruction in Gaza that is unpalatable.
President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Kamala Harris is looking really formidable at the moment, even if the election is quite tight. Only a few weeks ago, Donald Trump looked like he was pretty likely to take this election by storm. What do you think Trump's strategy will be from here to flip things back again?
Let's just take what is happening tonight. He's on social media. He is on Truth Social, and he is basically offering play-by-play commentary, which at times seemed rather off the wall, not to put too sharp a point on it, as to what Kamala Harris was saying and what Democrats were doing. That is not extraordinary. It's actually quite typical for Donald Trump. So I think we can expect from Donald Trump going forward that he's going to be doing a lot of what he had been doing. He is going to be Donald Trump. So he will be an antagonist. He will be aggressive. He will make fun of people. He will make fun of Harris. He will definitely talk about her record, as he has been doing. He's been incredibly critical with her on the issue of immigration and border security. And it's a fair criticism, too. And one has to wonder what that is going to look like when the two of them, providing that they stick to it, go and debate each other head to head, which is going to be quite talking about things that are extraordinary. That will be an extraordinary matchup between the two of them. Now, Kamala Harris has said, I am a prosecutor by trade, and Donald Trump is now a convicted felon. So she's setting this up to be truly a battle of law and order versus lawlessness.
Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law.
Just briefly before we let you go, you've joined us live from both the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. I have two important questions for you. One, where is Beyonce? Because there were rumors that she was going to be at this event. And two, which has the better vibe?
Well, if I knew where Beyonce was, I'd probably be earning a much bigger salary. But no, it's something that was a rumor. But hey, we had Pink and John Legend and other musical acts. The former Dixie Chicks, now known as the Chicks, sung the national anthem. It was quite rousing. Totally different vibes. I was talking just with a colleague before we spoke and how the Republican convention, it was very energetic, but it was energetic almost in a way that would be akin to an ultimate fighting championship fight. Literally Donald Trump being filmed walking out as if he was going to be entering a ring. The energy was very much focused all about Donald Trump the whole week, and that was what it was. Here, it was broader. It was not just about Kamala Harris. It was so often about issues about other people other than Kamala Harris, and that in and of itself was notable because it was such a departure from what you really saw on the Republican side, and a lot of issues that were talked about, a lot of very personal issues too, about abortion, about gun safety. People today, on Thursday here in the United States, standing up on the stage and talking about how their children had been killed in mass shootings. It was quite profound and quite emotional. And that was something that I think the contrasts are going to continue between the Republicans and the Democrats from here on in to Election Day, where both sides will see their style and see their approach as an advantage to getting out their voters. And the Democrats hope that they're going to not only do that, but also with their message, one of hope and positivity and the future, not only just incite their supporters to the ballot box, but also to attract more people and get them to the ballot box too, who might up to this point have been skeptical about voting for the Democrats.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you.
Well, no doubt we'll be watching with absolute fascination all the way up until November. Thanks so much again for joining us on The Briefing today, Dave.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.
Dave Levinthal there, live from Chicago. That's it for this episode of The Briefing. As always, we'd love it if you could share this app with someone you think might be keen to hear it. And if you want to keep up with our other content, you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast and on TikTok and YouTube. Just search Listener Newsroom. And on that very YouTube channel, you'll be able to watch Antoinette Lattouf, who's back with you tomorrow for the weekend briefing. This weekend, get ready to get to know the hilarious Jimmy and Nath, who you might know from their pod Born Funny or their new hosting gig on Brecky Radio. But did you know that their love started as hate?
hated Nath when I first met him. He was big, muscly, blonde hair.
Didn't have a gun.
But then they'd also told me, like,
he wasn't used to it.
they were like this, you know, he's muscly, he's smart, he was doing his law degree, he went to this private school, like just the complete opposite of my life. And then, like, I'm an introverted extrovert. I like to recharge my battery to then pick where I want to, you know, use that.
And you didn't want to use it next to me.
Oh, this guy, like, I remember we were in a car park.
I picked him up and gave him a big hug.
He ran up to me. He's like, Jimmy, welcome to Sydney. How are you? Like, so much energy. And I was just like, oh.
I was like, I'll show you my favourite sushi place.
Yeah, like physically, like, grabbed me by the arm and was like, there's a sushi. We're going to have sushi together. I'm like, I don't know you.
That'll be in your feed tomorrow. But for now, I'm Bension Siebert. Have a great weekend and see you next time.